moving into the sharing and reflecting part of this session. We will be starting with English, then we will be moving to Spanish, and finally French. So for those of you that were in the English rooms, please raise your hand if you would like to share what you discussed in your rooms. That means what you discussed about intersectionality, what you discussed about the power mapping, what policy you chose, anything. And we ask that you keep it under 2 minutes so we can get to more people. All right, I'm seeing Irene. Go ahead and then mute and share away, Irene, 2 minutes.
Yep, I was part of the Cranes group, and I think a piece that we really honed in on for most of our discussion is around funding. A lot of youth advocates put in a lot of labor on protests or actions or public comments and often don't get paid, even if sometimes they're working with organizations that have staff that are funded. So that was a big priority. Players that were mentioned, in some places there are a lot of like large corporations that are not of the same values that are giving grants. Things like ExxonMobil and Chevron are giving grants in Mexico, and that's obviously not someone that youth advocates find are aligned. Foundations play a big role, and we had a really good example, like ones that are starting to fund youth grassroots. So we kind of talked about those sort of things, and I think the main points we came up with is the importance of young people finding ways to continue to bring them together to share what's happening and making sure that they're finding ways to get funded, having like trainings and stuff, and then maybe finding ways to support people at the grassroots level, but maybe bring them together for collective action, whether it's national level or something to amplify their campaigns. And really having youth at the table to be able to influence the funding or just influence decision making, that might have to be, yeah, like an intergenerational thing. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Irene. Thanks for sharing. All such incredible points. Sounds like you all had great discussion. Thanks for sharing. Next up, we're going to head to another English pod session. So next up on my list, I believe, is Kathleen. Go ahead, unmute, share for just about 2 minutes.
Super, thanks so much. So I am feeding back from woodpeckers, and once again, we had a fabulous conversation. We traversed a lot of different territory. Finding a single policy, of course, is so difficult when there are so many challenges before us. Most of the areas we touched on were around the climate crisis more generally, but also really looking at both local and global approaches to changing political will. I think that was central to what we looked at. Understanding that those in power, our world leaders, are really important, but the people power is something we really want to push through education, through pushing for people using their democratic power for ensuring people have education in order to leverage the power they have. We also pushing for lobbyists supporting our activists and ensuring that we are fully incorporating that interconnected perspective on our actions. Working with local communities and ensuring that we have reached out to and are amplifying the voices of young people, but also of those communities that are most impacted. I think that is a fair summary. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathleen. Apologies for the small mic delay there. Thank you for sharing. Again, incredibly important points. Sounds like you all covered a lot of ground. I think we figured out how to use these pod sessions, and it's such a shame that this is our last day, because imagine what we could do with more pod sessions. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Next up, we're going to go to one more English group. So if you're in an English group, go ahead and raise your hand. I'm seeing Isaac's hand up. Isaac, do you speak English?
Yes, I can speak English.
Excellent. All right, go for it. Just about 2 minutes. Thank you.
All right. I have a friend from the pod as well who will jump in, but I will try to make first this part a bit quicker. So in our pod, we started by wondering, well, by recognizing that we already know what's going on wrong in the environment, in the world, economically, societally, however we want to see it. We know how to solve it in terms of what is the scientific reason behind why everything of this is happening. But the big question is, how can we make these solutions that we already know that can be applied to be actually applied? So that is kind of the challenge in terms of an organization aspect. How can we make the governments, the organizations, the companies, the big corporations to take action? And that's where it starts to get complicated, because it's ironic that if we know what is going wrong, why isn't anything being done? So that's the part that becomes frustrating, especially when you're a young person. And I talk about my personal experience before I was choosing what field I would study. I would know, okay, if I study this, I can solve it this way, or I can discover this. But if no one in the policy making is willing to make a change, nothing is going to happen. So what could be the solution to this? And we started to realize that we should stop thinking about separating each field, because then the scientifics will say, well, the people, the citizens don't find interest in it. And then the government will say something like, well, the scientists are very elitist or something like this. I don't know if Tia wants to jump in here.
Sure. Hi, I'm Tia from Goldfinches. So to continue on what Isaac was saying is that we were talking about how there's a theory called partnership pentagram, and it's to get the idea of get all different parts of society into one room together. So the policymakers who set the policies, the professionals who work in the system, the academy which produces those professionals and studies of that system, and then the fifth partner is the community. Those at whatever scale that is, the people who are influenced by the system. You need to have everyone in the room together. If one party isn't there, there are reasons why it doesn't or cannot happen, and there's something to blame why it's not happening. So it would be helpful to get everyone into a room with the youth, and for us to clear up any misunderstandings that any part of the system has misunderstood, and to somewhat get on the same page and be able to launch ourselves into the air finally, to be able to move together as a whole unit to achieve our goal that benefits everyone, basically to make a beautiful mosaic of all different kinds of ideas.
Yes, thank you all for sharing. Incredible words, and it looks like you all touched on a lot in Sparrows as well. Going back to what you were saying, Isaac, about frustration, I feel that that we know what needs to be done, right? And if we had the power, we could fix so much with just a snap of our fingers, but we're bogged down in the red tape and the bureaucracy. But thank you for sharing. Hopefully with intergenerational dialogue, we might be able to make headway on a couple of fronts. So now we're going to switch to Spanish. So
hola a todos. Yo voy a hablar de lo que estuvimos hablando en el equipo de Hummingbirds. Y bueno, empezar por la parte de qué herramientas necesitan las personas jóvenes para seguir su movilización y para empezar a generar como acciones, ¿no? Hablando sobre esto, por ejemplo, el comentario de Aurelia era que se necesita realmente la difusión, ¿no? Que se necesitan herramientas, pues, talleres o espacios en donde se enseña a utilizar diferentes herramientas tecnológicas para las cosas en las que se necesita poner mucha atención, ¿no? Retomando el tema del poder, hablábamos, por ejemplo, de este espacio, de este foro como un lugar de poder, ¿no? Hoy tenemos conectadas a personas que están de gobierno, a personas que están en diferentes áreas importantes, y pensar en este espacio como ya un espacio donde se mueve el poder. Y ahora mencionaba, por ejemplo, que ojalá, y también Sofi, por ahí Dani y Néstor, que ojalá que este espacio no se quede solo en palabras y en un manifiesto bonito que sea nada más un texto, ¿no? Sino que ojalá que también se pueda llevar a las acciones. Por ejemplo, Aurelia, actualmente en su comunidad, están enfrentándose contra las hidroeléctricas que tratan pues, de quitarles los manantiales, etcétera. Entonces, ¿qué vamos a hacer para apoyar a Aurelia? Hay que pensar en eso. Este espacio ya es un espacio de poder. ¿Cómo lo vamos a utilizar para apoyarnos? Hay que empezar a pensar en eso, ¿no? Esa es una, hablando también, por ejemplo, sobre cómo podemos consolidar acciones para ayudar a tener acciones más concretas. Y por ahí Dani comentaba algo que me parece padrísimo sobre empezar a tratar de utilizar la estética y el arte para transmitir nuestros mensajes y realmente lograr difusión, ¿no? Lograr conectarnos con otros. Tenemos que pensar en que existen diferentes áreas desde donde podemos ayudar. Por ejemplo, el área del arte es algo padrísima. Por ahí también Cristal comentaba la importancia de pensar el poder no solo de las instituciones, sino también el poder que tenemos desde nuestros privilegios. Por ejemplo, tocar mucho el tema de la apropiación cultural y cómo a veces pensamos que estamos dándole voz a las personas cuando realmente solo estamos haciendo apropiación cultural. Entonces, también el poder va en lo individual, reflexionar sobre nuestras acciones y sobre nuestro poder y cómo nos movemos en torno a eso, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, aquí lo dejaría y muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Carla. Ahora, por favor, hable despacio para que los intérpretes tengan tiempo de traducir. Por favor. Ahora vamos a Daniel. Daniel de Lucio.
¿Sí me escuchan?
Fernando.
¿Sí me escuchan?
Gracias.
Perfecto. Bueno, yo soy del pod 2, los Swans. En este pod hablamos principalmente de nuestras demandas como niñez o como juventud. ¿Qué es lo que queremos? Bueno, tocamos mucho el tema de los diálogos intergeneracionales, de que queremos que nos tomen en cuenta, no ser simples espectadores, sino también, como incluso tú mencionabas en el inicio de este día 4, ser partícipes activos que trabajen en conjunto con todas las generaciones para mejorar y para trabajar y para detener estos problemas a los que nos enfrentamos. Hablamos sobre el compromiso total, justo como menciona Carla hace un momento, que no solo quede en papel, en leyes, en tratados firmados por grandes autoridades o presidentes, sino que también haya una acción real, una acción que tenga procedimientos, autoridades y estructura. De hecho, incluso tuvimos un diálogo con un funcionario público de México, de la alcaldía Xochimilco, que es una alcaldía de la Ciudad de México, y hablamos sobre protocolos, actividades, presupuesto, y hablamos sobre cómo las autoridades y la infancia se está coordinando para detener estos problemas y para hacer lo que nos corresponde. Incluso tocamos un tema muy interesante que sería los planes ambientales transgubernamentales, que sería algo así como que los planes ambientales no estén atados a un gobierno o a un plan que proponga un partido político, sino que sea un plan general que se tenga que seguir durante un cierto tiempo, ¿no? Como los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible de la ONU. Entonces, sí fue un muy buen diálogo, aprendimos muchas cosas y creo que nos llevamos que es necesario que cooperemos y que trabajemos en conjunto, toda la sociedad, si queremos atacar este problema y si queremos apoyar a proyectos ambientales. Creo que eso sería con lo que nos quedamos. Gracias.
Thank you again all for your participation. This was a wonderful session. I learned a lot. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you will take what you learned about intergenerationality today and try to engage with the elders and the adults in your life, you know, talking about that shared eco-anxiety and talking about those shared emotions. Because I think truly that is the first step we need to take to make sure that our policy demands are met. So thank you again all. I will go ahead and kick it back over to our lovely MCs, Justin and Samia. Thank you all, and enjoy the rest of the consultation.
Oh, That was absolutely beautiful. Oh my goodness. Oh, so nice. What wonderful sharing, each of you, and you could just hear the passion, feel the passion, and the willingness, to share and connect and learn and grow. What beautiful work. Beautiful work. I'm just going to quickly do something here. Samaya, is there anything you'd like to add right now? Is she here with us?
Yep. Thanks, Justin. I definitely ditto and want to also reciprocate. Thank you all for sharing in these pods. I really enjoy each time hearing your feedback, and just knowing what's really important to you across the different regions that we all live in, and that the concerns really can be different, but that we do have some shared similarities in what to address. So with that, I'll pass it back to you, Justin, to take us into our break.
Awesome. Well, I had a little bit of sharing I would like to do right now. One of the things I'd like to acknowledge is Nadine's presentation was beautiful. And I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm just going to double check. Is it? Yes, it is Nadine. Oh, good. Oh, we always want to make sure we get the name right. So I noticed Nadine was drinking out of a jar. Me too, Nadine. Jars are so yummy. Just kidding. Anyway, I'd like to share a bit of a story with all of you. So Nadine was talking about the ant. She was talking about indigenous knowledge. I really enjoy those. So for what I would like to share is, so my name is Pinisegajik Dishnakaz Kinyudodam. My Indian name is Thunder Sky. And so I worked so hard as an indigenous man in my healing and creating a journey of self-development and looking at myself and owning my life. I grew up in foster homes, child abuse, and a lot of those things. And instead of being a victim of my past, I've learned to create value and from who I've come from and how I've grown. And that learning, I took a 4-day fast, 4 days up on the mountain, where I sat and I prayed, connecting with the fire, connecting with my childhood, connecting with my inner self, learning about what it means to be indigenous, learning about what it means to be Pinisegajik Dishnakaz Kinyudodam, Thunder Sky, what it means to be who I am, learning in that time that it starts within me. It starts within me, this journey of self-discovery, this journey of creating change, this journey of becoming the man I'm meant to be. And while I was up on that mountain, I was on my fourth day, really struggling. It was a fast, no food, no water. So I was really thirsty, just wishing for a jar of water like this. I was having a tough time. The elder told me, he said, when you watch the sun, my boy, from when it rises to when it goes all the way down is when I'll come, and I'll come for you. So on the fourth day was a real tough day, and I was really having a hard time, and I kept thinking about the time, kept thinking about how much hunger I had, how much thirst I had, how much struggle there was in that. But then I started learning about, instead of focusing on the hurt, instead of focusing on the pain, I started learning to pay attention to my surroundings. And as I was paying attention to my surroundings, I noticed a little ant, a small little ant on the ground. And I started looking at it, and this little ant was carrying a spider. It was dead already, but this ant was moving this spider through the grass and packing the spider, and it was struggling, but it was all by itself, and it was moving the spider as best as it could. The spider was dead, and it was like struggling to get it going. But I started watching this ant and paying attention to this ant. Then I started thinking about this ant and this ant's journey. This ant is doing this not for fame or fortune. This ant is doing this because of instinct. This ant is doing it because it knows within itself that it needs to take this bit home to share with its family. This ant is doing all these things. So I started praying to the ant, offering tobacco. In our way, we offer tobacco to the fire. I started praying for this ant. Then I even I started thinking about, oh, what if I just pick up this ant and I carry it to its home? But then I thought, oh man, I'd be stealing from its journey, and I shouldn't do that. Then I was thinking, I'm so hungry. What if I just pick up that spider and split it in half and take a bite? But oh, I don't want to be a stealer. I don't want to do that. So I started really thinking, I'm just joking about that part, but I really started connecting with this ant. So I picked up my drum, my pumin, and my drumstick, and I started singing song to this ant, honoring this ant on its journey. And as I watched it, and I watched it struggle to take this spider home, I watched and I learned. I thought about this idea that this ant is just doing this because it knows it needs to, it has to, it wants to, it's going home to share. It doesn't have any of those other, it's just doing what it's supposed to. And I really felt so connected to it. And it took a long time for this ant to get all the way back to her colony. And as I was sitting and I was thinking, after I watched this ant get all the way home, I ended up doing a walk of healing. I was up on the mountain preparing to do a walk of healing, where I walked from Kamloops, BC, all the way to Bloodvein, Manitoba, where I'm from. 2,400 kilometers I walked along the #1 highway, praying for healing, praying for love, praying for learning, praying for interconnection, praying for the ability to continue on my journey as becoming a man. The ant always reminded me that it's not for fame or fortune, it's for love, it's for connection, it's for an instinct of just creating. So Nadine, when you talk about that ant and you talk about the beauty in it, there's so much teachings in our creatures in our land. There's so much teachings in this way of life. And we talk about being tired and overwhelmed and worrying about policy and bureaucracy and understanding what other people are saying or doing. What I really love to share is believing in ourselves is so inspiring, that it starts from within. If you truly connect, the longest journey we're all on is from our heart to our mind to the depths of our soul, where we find our song and we sing it proudly. Proudly, we walk this earth, we connect with Mother Earth, and we create the life that we deserve. We create love, we create connection, we create that beauty that's within all of us. And we just keep doing that, and keep on keeping on. We are stewards of this land. We are all a beautiful family, human being family. It's an honor to be here with you all today. So I just wanted to share that story today with a little hopes of adding to a little bit of what we're doing today. It's an honor to be here.